I'm Liyana Hassanel, and you're tuning into Nightline, the top stories. 3 banks agreed to give moratorium to flood victims, says PM. And over 28 million ringgit worth of Syabu seized in Kelantan. Good morning. 3 local banks have so far agreed to give a moratorium of up to 6 months for flood victims in Johor. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, when informing the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday, said the government had also reached out to several other banks over the past 2 days and have urged them to follow suit in providing the assistance to flood victims.
Setakat ini, Maybank CIMB telah bersetuju untuk memberi moratorium 6 bulan. Dan dengan langkah ini, hari ini, semalam dan hari ini, kita menghubungi bank-bank lain supaya mengikuti langkah yang diambil oleh Maybank dan CIMB. Agrobank, Menteri dah sebut. Okey, terima kasih.
Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Anwar said there is no need to declare a state of emergency in Johor, as the flood situation is under control. The Prime Minister said this in reply to RM28 Datuk Seri Shahidan Kasim in the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday. He added that the government will also continually channel other aid to assist flood victims. On another matter, Datuk Seri Anwar has agreed in principle to give an equal allocation to opposition members of parliament, as received by government MPs. However, the Prime Minister said it should start with a discussion by both parties to discuss the best method besides finding a common point of understanding.
Apa yang berlaku semasa kerajaan di bawah BERA tidak mula dengan begitu. Mula dengan rundingan, engagement, rundinglah cara elok. Ini Kota Baru pun ada dalam rundingan, proses rundingan itu. Runding, bincang kaedahnya. Saya akan tanya bagaimana Kedah, Perlis, Kelantan, Terengganu. Jadi kalau ada persefahaman itu, boleh jalan. Saya tak ada nak gaduh apa-apa. Yang maki hamun saya di parlimen dan di luar, mengatakan saya batalkan, saya zalim, saya tak bagi. Ini tak ambil kira apa yang pernah berlaku. Saya cadangkan ada proses rundingan dan kita cari kaedah pada prinsipnya. Yang Mak yang Betua, saya tidak menolak prinsip memberi peruntukan yang kepada pembangkang seperti mana yang diberikan kepada ahli parlimen kerajaan. Dan itu pendirian saya daripada dulu. Tetapi proses rundingan belum berlaku. Yang ada proses permusuhan.
He said this in reply to RM28 Datuk Seri Shahidan Kasim, who wanted to know the allocation for MPs to help flood victims in their respective constituencies during the minister's question time at the Dewan Rakyat sitting on Tuesday. Datuk Seri Anwar, who is also Finance Minister, said that during the administration of Pagoh MP Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin as the Prime Minister, the opposition MPs did not receive such an allocation. However, BERA MP Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, during his administration, had also held discussions with Pakatan Harapan through several engagement sessions. Meanwhile, an emergency motion on the frequent problem of flooding in the country was tabled and debated in the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday. The motion was brought by Kluang MP Wang Shuqi in accordance with Standing Order 18-1, suggesting that the Dewan Rakyat urged the government to take more proactive measures to protect the lives and property of the people threatened by climate change. When tabling the motion, Wang said the government needs to improve standard operating procedures, SOPs, regarding the release of dam water to overcome extreme weather.
Kerajaan perlu bersifat lebih telus dalam perancangan pelepasan air empangan supaya rakyat yang berada di sekitar kawasan empangan berpeluang untuk mengambil tindakan segera untuk mengelakkan kerugian harta atau lebih buruk lagi, kehilangan nyawa.
In addition, she also urged the government to ensure that the supply of basic goods for flood relief centres is sufficient for the whole year, since the country can be hit by floods at any time due to climate change. Wang said the government should also reconsider allowing the preparation of food at relief centres, as done during the COVID-19 pandemic. Noting that the flood victims in Johor have reached 40,000 people, Wang said the matter needs to be expedited as the people are waiting for help and for more proactive action from the unity government. Earlier, Deputy Speaker Datuk Ramli Muhammad Noor informed that Speaker Datuk Johari Abdul had received notification of the motion last Friday and found that the motion met 3 conditions, namely being specific, urgent and of public interest. Kelantan police have made its biggest drug seizure so far this year, involving Syabu worth over 28.6 million ringgit in 2 separate operations on Monday night and Tuesday. However, no arrest was made in both operations carried out in Pasir Mas and Kuala Krai. State Police Chief Datuk Muhammad Zaki Harun said about 17.8 million ringgit worth of Syabu, weighing 495 kilograms, were seized in the first operation by members of the General Operations Force of the 9th Battalion. The drugs were found wrapped with courier service packaging and packed into several gunny sacks inside a Protonwira aerobag about 8:30 p.m. in Kampung Pohon Buluh, Pasir Mas. In the second operation, he said police seized 300 kilograms of Syabu, also wrapped with courier service packaging, which were left abandoned inside a Proton Exora. The seizure, worth about 10.8 million ringgit, was made at Kampung Batu Balai near Kuala Krai about 7:15 a.m. However, the driver of the car managed to escape into a nearby oil palm estate. Authorities have already identified the car owners and will arrest them soon. Initial investigation showed that the Syabu were smuggled into Kelantan via the neighbouring country to be distributed in other states. Both cases are being investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act. Meanwhile, the Federal Narcotics Criminal Investigation Department, NCID, has crippled a drug distribution syndicate and seized 300 kilograms of Syabu worth 10.8 million ringgit. Kuala Lumpur Deputy Police Chief Datuk Yahya Othman said the NCID, assisted by officers from the City Police Contingent, conducted 5 raids in the federal capital, Selangor and Negeri Sembilan on Friday. The raids, carried out simultaneously between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m, also saw the arrest of 8 suspects, including a man with a Datuk title and a woman. Police also seized 2 kilograms of RM28 and 7 cars belonging to the suspects, as well as jewellery worth over 17,000 ringgit and cash amounting to 8,400 ringgit during the operation codenamed Op Greyhound. The syndicate's modus operandi was to obtain the drugs from a state in the north for distribution in and around the Klang Valley by using a refurbished vehicle to avoid detection by authorities. The suspects, aged between 27 and 61, have been remanded to facilitate police investigation under the Dangerous Drugs Act. Home Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said he will give an explanation in the Dewan Rakyat on Wednesday over his decision to grant an exemption to UMNO from a legal provision under the Societies Act or Act 832 with regard to the passing of an additional motion for the President and Deputy President posts to be uncontested in this year's party elections. This was following claims by the opposition over a letter circulated online, allegedly issued by the Registrar of Societies ROS, dated March 2nd, which stated that the additional motion was invalid. In a posting on his Facebook account, Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution said he will clarify the matter after several opposition MPs had raised the issue and questioned the move during the Parliament sitting on Tuesday. Earlier in a statement, the minister said the exemption was given based on Section 70 of the Act. He added that the ministry made the decision after it had referred to UMNO's constitution and meeting rules regarding the additional motion. Under Section 70 of the Act 832, the minister may at his discretion in writing exempt any society registered under this Act from all or any of the provisions of this Act. The additional motion was approved during the 2022 UMNO General Assembly at the Kuala Lumpur World Trade Center on January 14th. On Monday, UMNO President Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said that the ROS had approved the additional motion, demonstrating its validity and putting an end to the polemic surrounding it. The government will look into creating more opportunities for women to participate in the economy and society as a whole. Women, Family and Community Development Minister Datuk Sri Nancy Shukri said gender equality was not about the equal status that women were entitled to, but a fundamental human right and a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world.
I have always believed that education is key to lift up women. By providing equal access and opportunities, we can break the cycle of poverty and ensure that women have the skills needed to be successful. Our ministry continues to promote initiatives that encourage women economic empowerment.
Datuk Sri Nancy said this when officiating the inaugural Academy for Women Entrepreneurs AWE Regional Summit in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. Also present were United States Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, Rafiq Mansour, U.S. Ambassador to Malaysia, Brian McFetus, and AWE Malaysia Implementer, Nur Aiza Shamsul Baharin. The summit, hosted by the U.S. Embassy until March 9th, is being held in conjunction with International Women's Day, involving participants from various countries in the region, including Malaysia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, and Taiwan. The event also brought together some 200 successful women entrepreneurs and business leaders to foster greater networking among women-led businesses across the Indo-Pacific region. Women are seeking challenging opportunities that empower them to succeed in their careers, and it is the responsibility of organizations to provide them with an inclusive and bias-free environment. Towards that, some employers have even created more flexible and inclusive work environments. But with a new policy that gives women longer paid maternity leave, are employers hesitant to recruit women as their employees? Hakim Azman has the details.
It is not ethical or legal for employers to hire more men to avoid paying women due to longer maternity leave. Such practices can go against the principles of equal pay and equal opportunities in the workplace, which can lead to discrimination against women. Last month, a survey conducted by the Associated Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry of Malaysia, ACCCIM, revealed that among Chinese employers, 41.3% of respondents indicated a shift to a higher male-to-female ratio in employment to mitigate the impact of extended maternity leave. This does not bode well for encouraging women's participation in the labour force and promoting gender equality. According to the Malaysian Employers Federation (MEF), this would not only affect the gender equality but also the country's economy.
Currently, women employees' participation rate is about 55.5% as compared to men participation rate, which is more than 85%. In this situation, it is important for Malaysia to increase the women participation rate in the labour force so that we can reduce our reliance on foreign workers. In the event we are able to increase the women participation rate by about 10%, there would be additional 2 million women labour force in the market.
Datuk Shamsuddin said to achieve this, there needs to be a concerted effort to increase awareness of the issues and challenges that women face in the workplace. The Women's Aid Organisation WAO, on the other hand, felt that there is a dire need to introduce a gender impact assessment as far as the workforce is concerned.
Separately, we also need a Gender Equality Act to supplement the existing clauses under Article 8 of the Federal Constitution and to really enshrine gender equality and non-discrimination. A Gender Equality Act will also provide protection for women in the private sector and in areas where existing laws already do not cover as it does the public sector.
For the women I spoke to, they believe that more can be done to boost their participation at the workplace, thus contributing to nation building.
Participation that we take in sports and the opportunities has been given in work or schools, it doesn't they doesn't see the gender that we belong to. We have been given equal opportunities as compared to other genders, even in schools.
As a woman, it's already tough out there with the periods and stuff, but we still can do whatever we want and whatever we want to do if we put our mind into it.
We need to believe that women also can work as what men do, which is we need to enhance our skills in terms of, and we also need to believe that ourselves also capability.
They have to understand that women's role is different compared to men's role. So it's nothing wrong for them to give priority for the women to build their self back after them give birth. No? So I think we have to change the mentality.
Hakim Azman, TV3.
When we come back, Indonesia landslide, rescuers search for more survivors. Stay with us.
Aku Helios, The Mastermind. Bulan ini, TV3 Cinema, kami yang punya. Buat kerja macam ni, kena clean.
Back with news on the foreign front. Rescuers on a remote Indonesian island on Tuesday were searching for dozens who are still missing after a landslide that killed 15 people on Monday. Poor weather and downed communication lines, however, have complicated rescue efforts on the far-flung island of Serasan in the Natuna region between Borneo and Peninsular Malaysia. The country's disaster agency spokesperson, Abdul Muhari, said at present 42 people were still missing and that heavy equipment such as excavators had yet to arrive, as those helping in the operation are required to travel by boat, vehicles, then on foot. Rescuers had so far recovered 10 bodies at the scene, while villagers put the death toll at 15. Israeli warplanes struck Syria's Aleppo airport on Tuesday, causing significant damage that halted flights to and from Syria's war and quake-battered second city. There were no immediate reports on casualties, but the strike caused enough damage to which the airport can no longer receive 8 flights that have now been diverted to Damascus and Latakia airports. The Foreign Ministry called the Israeli strike a double crime, saying that it targeted a civilian airport and a main channel for the flow of aid to areas hit by last month's earthquake. There was no comment from Israeli officials, as this marks the second Israeli attack on government-held areas since the quake. Israel has attacked Aleppo airport several times in recent years, with a strike last September putting it out of service for a few days. Japan was forced to blow up its new rocket, the H3, during a failed launch on Tuesday after the second stage engine failed to ignite, dealing a blow to the country's space and national security programs. The Japanese space agency JAXA said the launch from the Tanegashima Space Center in southwestern Japan initially appeared to be a success, with the rocket lifting off and the first stage separation gone successful. But upon reaching space, the rocket's second stage engine failed to ignite, forcing mission officials to manually destroy the vehicle 14 minutes into the flight. Keiko Nagaoka, the Japanese Minister for Science and Technology, said in a statement that the government had established a task force to investigate the very regrettable failure. She also apologized for failing to meet the expectations of the public and related parties. Japan built the H3, its first new series in more than 22 years, to bolster its chances of capturing a bigger share of the global launch market from rivals, including Elon Musk's SpaceX. After the short break, football action from We're back with sports, football, the Argentine Primera Division. Racing Club suffered yet another defeat, this time at the hands of Godoy Cruz at Estadio Malvinas Argentinas on Monday. Tomas Konechny scored for the hosts in the opening minute, to the shock of racing boss and ex-Real Madrid Fernando Gago. Godoy Cruz displayed a solid performance in both defense and attack, stopping racing from registering any shots on target in the first half. 12 minutes into the second half, Solomon Rodriguez scored Racing's second goal from a free kick. Racing thought they reduced the gap to 1 goal 10 minutes before the final whistle, but the referee had to cancel it after VAR instructed him about Jonathan Galvan being in an offside position before playing the header. Racing an impressive start of the season continues, as they sit in the 17th place after managing to get only 8 points from 6 games. Godoy Cruz improved to 9 points in the 13th place of the 2018 league. MACC recovers 70% of 1MDB assets and funds. This and more when Nightline returns. Welcome back. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, has recovered about 70% of assets and funds linked to 1MDB, equivalent to about 28.93 billion ringgit. MACC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki vowed that the anti-graft agency will not stop in its endeavour to recover the remaining 30% of assets and funds linked to the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Duit yang hilang sebenarnya 42 bilion. Jadi kalau kita tengok dapat pemulangan lebih kurang dekat 28 ataupun 29 bilion sekarang ni. Jadi that 30% is the balance yang we try to recover as much as possible.
Tan Sri Azam said this to the media after attending the Memorandum of Understanding MOU signing between MACC, University Technology Mara UITM, and Malaysian Institute of Accountants MIA at the MACC headquarters on Tuesday. The MACC Chief Commissioner said the latest to be recovered was $1.8 billion following a settlement with International Petroleum Investment Company IPIC and Abar Investments PJS. Tan Sri Azam said the MACC was among the main agencies tasked with recovering assets and funds belonging to 1MDB and has been instrumental in the recovery efforts, including conducting investigations, making arrests, and prosecuting those involved in the 1MDB scandal. The MACC, he said, is part of the task force, which includes the Finance Ministry, adding that efforts to recover the remaining assets and funds are still ongoing. In a separate case, a research officer who claimed that the MACC had offered 10 million ringgit to former Bersatu Information Chief Datuk Wan Saiful Wan Jan was charged in the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court on Tuesday. 32-year-old Muhammad Shafiq Abdul Halim was charged with failing to comply with an order to appear for oral examination in connection with a case investigated by the MACC. He pleaded not guilty to the charge, which was read out before Judge Susanna Hussain, who later fixed April 7th for case mention. The accused allegedly committed the offence at the MACC headquarters in Putrajaya on March 3rd. The charge under the MACC Act provides a maximum fine of 10,000 ringgit or imprisonment for up to 2 years or both if found guilty. The court set bail at 10,000 ringgit with one surety and also ordered Muhammad Shafiq to surrender his passport to the court as well as report himself to MACC office once a month. And that wraps up Nightline this time around. On behalf of the Nightline team, I would like to wish Happy International Women's Day to all the amazing women out there who inspire us with their strength, courage, and grace. With that, I'm Liyana Hassanel. Thank you for watching and stay safe, Malaysia.